My name's Reese. I'm a van operator at Europa Worldwide.
I'm Jason. I work as the full load, volume and van manager at Europa Worldwide.
It might sound obvious, but what does transportation mean in the world of logistics?
For me, transportation isn't just the picking up a freight from one point to the other. Transportation to me is the sorting out of a customer's needs and trying to piece together this jigsaw puzzle they give to us. So nothing's ever straightforward. It's making sure that we deliver an efficient package to the customers, ensure that they keep coming back to us, and also delivering it with a smile on our face and making sure that they're happy. What does it mean to you? What does transportation mean to you?
I'd say that it is, for most people, it would probably be getting something from A to B. But I think when you get into the actual logistics of it, it's so much more complicated than that. Like everything, it's like a clock. There are so many cogs moving at one time. You've got to kind of just make sure that it's all running properly. And if something's out of place or it doesn't go well, it can cause an issue. So you just need to make sure that everything's going correctly. Everyone's aware of what's happening, where it's going, where it is, and what can be done to make sure that it gets there on time.
Give us an overview of your career up to this point.
So I was a school leaver. I was in school. I wasn't really motivated by university, but they were really trying to push us in sixth form to try and get a university application going. I just, all I wanted to do was just get a job and go into work straight away. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to work yet. I had no idea. And then a couple of people from Europa Worldwide came into our school. They did quite a big kind of presentation about the company, where it was. It was about, it had been recently taken over about 4 years prior, so it was still in a new kind of phase of change. And they wanted some school leavers, and straight away it got me interested. So I applied, went down to Dartford for an interview, got the job, and then it was straight into it. Like my training when I first got into it was just thrown into the deep end, looking after a little part of business, and taking as much knowledge and experience as I could at the beginning. So from there I went on to looking after a key account for a while. That was a good 2.5 years. I was looking after that account. And now I'm working in your department, in the operator side of things. So I completely switched from 4 or 5 years of customer service and customer facing jobs to now the operation side of things, learning the complete opposite end of it. So that's kind of my whole. I've only ever been at Europa Worldwide, so that's my career so far.
So yeah, mine sort of went down the same route, but mine was more my dad. I wasn't very much of a high achiever at school. I liked to mess around and do things like this, and as such my grades sort of struggled. So I tried to go down the college route. I tried to get there. At the time I didn't realise it, but I had a touch of dyslexia, a touch of ADHD, and yeah, I just wasn't paying attention. I wasn't engaging with the classes and stuff like that. I wasn't going to college, so my dad just turned around to me and went, right, it's time for you to go to work. He then got me a job in a warehouse. So I've started right at the entering level where you can get, it's literally loading the freight onto the vehicles. I wasn't overly happy with this because it's not very engaging. It's just picking things on the list, putting it on a trailer and sorting it from there. But what it did give me was a way into learning other things, developing myself. I noticed that there was an office building attached to it, and it sort of strung my interest, and I started going in there, asking questions, getting things, asking when things were going to become available. So I managed to eventually get myself into a position where I could go in for a role. I admittedly had to take a step down to first get there. I had to start as an office junior,
Yeah.
whereas I'd started up as a line manager in the warehouse. I'd worked my way up to that point, but I wanted to progress, so I just took that step down myself. And then from there, I didn't really look back. I started doing trailer planning, which was when the orders are coming through, making sure they all fit onto these trailers, making sure that things that have got extended loading times are actually able to be loaded on the first trailer and not the second trailer, ensuring that delivery dates were met. And then from there, I was offered into a position of becoming a driver planner. And now this is the step next to loading the vehicles. This is where you're telling the drivers, right, you need to be here at this time, you need to be picking up that trailer, dropping it off at this time, and ensuring that any delays are reported in. Letting me know immediately, because anything could cause a delay for us.
Yeah.
Then from there, I got noticed by my line manager at the time to be a supervisor. I didn't think I was good enough, but they actually came to me and went, no, you've got the skills to do the role. And then, from there I haven't really looked back. I did the supervisor role. Then a position became available for manager. I went for it, and I'm now in the position that I am now. So, give us a snapshot of what your daily, weekly tasks are.
So, I've been doing this new job. I started in December, so not too long ago now, a couple of months in. And my new job now is on a daily basis speaking to hauliers that we've outsourced our work to. From our customer base. I'm a van operator, so mainly on the smaller, quicker vehicles that are travelling to and from Europe, and basically just keeping on top of everything on both sides. So that's the haulier side who's completing this consignment for us, and then on the account manager side, so they're the sales guys and the customer service guys that are selling these services to their customers. So kind of the middleman, making sure that everything runs smoothly, and basically if we're collecting something from Nottingham, it's going to go to France. I have to make sure that every step of the way that van and that driver is safe, they're running, they're carrying on fine, and nothing's going to go wrong. And along the way there are 100% of the time going to be issues that come into play. It's very rare that we get a job that runs completely perfect, and this could come from anything. It could be an accident on the motorway, it could be an issue with customs on either side, that's our side, or on the customer side. It could be an issue with the driver. We had one the other day where there was a medical issue and the driver he wasn't able to travel to Europe, so we had to get a different driver in, loaded on a completely different vehicle, and then straight back into France. So basically speaking to hauliers on a daily basis, and our account managers at Europa Worldwide, and making sure that everything runs smoothly for the van jobs that we're moving.
Does working in transportation just mean being a HGV driver?
Definitely not. I think on a daily basis alone, I probably speak to people that work in 15 different departments, maybe. You're looking at customer service, sales, everyone that works in the warehouse. In Birmingham we've got quite a large warehouse. You've got forklift drivers, and what we do, the operations side, and even in the operations side alone, there are so many different avenues and jobs that you can go in that way. A logistics company is still a company as well. Just because you're working there doesn't mean that you're just going to be focusing on logistics. There's obviously accounts that's going to be going on, and all of this needs to, as I say, work in a unit together. So I think people that just think that logistics is a driver, he picks something up, he goes to that destination, it's done. It's completely different to that. It's a lot more complicated, especially since Brexit, and there's a lot more moving cogs that have to work together to get everything sorted.
What is something you do in your role people might be surprised by?
I'd say dealing with issues, maybe. I do think that people might think that when you pick up a pallet or a job that you're just saying, okay, he's good to go, that's fine, and then he's on his way. There's nothing else to deal with. I think that people would be surprised about how intricate the daily routine is.
And bizarre.
And bizarre, yeah. I mean, some of the things that you come across and some of the stories that you hear are, they can make you laugh at sometimes.
It's like that driver I had not long ago where he turned up at the gatehouse and he was kicking up the Geiger counter, and they were like, I'm sorry, we can't load your driver, he's radioactive. So then we had to have a phone call with some people to say, you might need to go and get your driver checked out because he's registering on a Geiger counter.
I mean, there's just so many different things that can happen on a daily basis that aren't. You don't think you're going to come into work and experience that.
Well, it's like you the other week when that driver got sick and you were trying to sort him out. And
anything can happen. You've just got to be prepared for it. So, yeah.
What are the hardest challenges you've faced in your career to date?
There's been a few things, especially since I started. If you look at the last 5 years, just in life, we've had Brexit, obviously, like a whirlwind through the freight world, which had its own issues and changes that the government had to make, which we then had to change in our company. But even if you look at COVID, that massively affected everything around the country, not just logistics, but every industry was affected. And then obviously the Ukraine war, those big three things have come in, and there have been a lot of changes that we've done to cater for those issues that have happened.
Especially with that COVID thing where pretty much overnight we had to adapt from working in an office to working from home and trying to supply ourselves with our own IT to make sure that things kept moving, because people still wanted freight moving, they still needed these things to be picked up and delivered, but we were trying our hardest to get it working where we had to rope in our own equipment, and then the company finally sorted things out, but then getting that to the people whilst there were all these restrictions in place.
And we obviously had, we've got massive customer base that have their own regulations and rules on COVID at that time, so any drivers that were going in to collect, they might have had to do a test before, or they don't have a mask on the van, so they've got to go and try and find a mask. Just so many different things, but I'd say those three issues have been challenges that have come in and changed the way that we worked. So adapting to those is probably my biggest challenge, I'd say.
I'd say it's on par with mine as well, because previously, it was get an order in, you pick it up, you've got all your little things in between. But Brexit, that was a interesting time. We were having to put some extra hours in. The quote numbers just went through the roof because everybody just tried to get everything across the border before the customs came in. And I think our workload pretty much doubled in the month. But the number of drivers which were coming into the UK and which we were having to sort out, making sure that they had the right permits and things in place, it was just a massive headache and a massive learning curve, because we had to make sure that they were customs registered, make sure that they were crossing prior to a set date, to make sure that we didn't impact any additional charges or anything on these loads. So that time was a very, very challenging period. And then COVID came in the across as well. So
I remember before Brexit had happened, it was only Norway and Switzerland that we were doing customs on, and that went overnight from just those two, which were quite rare to ship to from the UK and in from the UK, and then going straight to every single country needed customs, and it needed to be done perfectly.
And it was explaining to customers that didn't really understand customs processes what was now required, and then why these additional charges were coming into place, because vehicles were getting stuck because the right paperwork weren't there. So what is a highlight you can tell us about from your career today?
I'd say for me, I went to the Netherlands. I travelled to the Netherlands for a customer meeting. This was on one of the key accounts that I was working on, and we went over there to discuss everything throughout the year that had happened. So we were doing KPI reports. This was at a point where I'd started running a couple of the KPI monthly meetings as well via Teams. Obviously, speaking to the customer over in the Netherlands, everything was Teams based, so we'd speak to them, but it was really nice to go over and speak to people that I'd been working with for about 2 years at the time. So I'd say that's my biggest highlight, travelling. I've also travelled around different places around the UK, whether it's our Dartford warehouse or the UK-based customer that we went to. So I'd say travelling around has been my highlight so far at Europa.
Yeah. So mine was the recognition of my worth, like what I touched on earlier, where I've gone from a normal operator doing what I thought was a good job, but then having that recognised by senior management, and then turn around to me and go, actually, you've not applied for this role, but I think you should apply for this role. And from there, progressed in the way I needed to. So it's the recognition of the people around me pushing me forward as well. So it's a very positive market to be in.
Yeah.
So that is very much a highlight.
It's always changing.
Yeah.
There's loads of opportunities to come up as well.
Yeah, it's not a stuffy environment. So
yeah,
it's good. What are the 3 key skills that have helped you do your job?
I'd say that Europa has kind of developed those skills. Obviously, when I came in as a school leaver, I'd had no experience working full time, especially in an office. So that change from going straight from school to a job, I'd say the 3 things that I've kind of developed over the last 5 years are my confidence. I think the person that joined Europa is way different to the person that I am today. And that is partly to do with the roles that I've been involved in over the last 5 years. My resilience, that's something that you've definitely got to have in this job when you're speaking to all sorts of people that, you're trying to get a job done for them, and at the end of the day, all we want to do is do it to the best of our ability, but we want to do it right as well, and I'd say that my passion is a skill that I think I've worked into the job. I do think that I've been passionate over the last 5 years, trying to show that and be involved in as much as possible. And I think that those 3 skills have really helped me on a day-to-day basis with my roles.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I'll agree with everything you said. They're pretty much similar to what I said. The resilience is the main one for me. It's like I used to be a little bit of a shy away person because I had a few restrictions, but it's like since then I've grown. I'm not quite coming forward nowadays, and if you'd seen me at the very start of my journey to where I am now, it's polar opposites. Literally, it's grew so much within me. So I'll agree with what you said. Them 3 skills. What was the training and development process like when you started?
When I first started and came to work at Europa Worldwide, I was completely thrown in the deep end, which I actually prefer from a learning point of view. It was at the very start we had a kind of training process. There was a big group of us around the country. I think there was about 20 school leavers in all different branches, and in my branch we were given a little part of business and we had to look after that. And I think that it was the best way of learning for me, because I was coming up to day-to-day issues that were happening, potentially mistakes that I was making that I was learning from at the same time. So, that first year at Europa was, here's a part of business, we want you to look after it, we're going to help you, we're going to develop you on the way. If you make mistakes, it's the best way to learn. But for me, that was the best way of doing it, I think, since I've started this role as well. Just, being thrown in and having to do it, having to deal with it, coming up to those issues, it just helps you learn. And if the mistakes you make on the way, if they're not teaching you something, then you're clearly doing something wrong. So, those mistakes aren't always a bad thing. As long as you know how to deal with the issue the next time, then you've clearly learned from it.
Okay.
So what are your biggest changes you've seen in transportation since you started?
We touched on them already. The biggest one is the customs implementation. It sent massive shockwaves across the market. I don't think we as a country were prepared for it.
Yeah.
We've had to nurture and grow with our partners and develop new services for them. Europa took the forefront with it. We've developed a product, Europa Flow, which helps with the customs process. It takes some of the pain out of it, because customers weren't understanding what they were having to do. So yeah, it's that then coupled with doing the COVID thing. Yes, it was very much you had a restriction and another restriction, and trying to work with these customers to go, right, I understand you're frustrated. I understand you just need to get your freight from here to there. I want to remove that frustration from you. I want to give you the tools to be able to do it and make sure that we're not charging you the world for it as well. So you can supply to your customers. We can keep these things moving and ultimately make everybody happy. So yeah, it was a very, very challenging time. There was some blood, sweat and tears went into it, but we learned and we developed as a team. We grew, we leaned on each other, we made sure that we were there for each other whilst also dealing with all these issues. So yeah.
What do you see yourself doing in your career over the next few years?
Myself, I want to keep progressing in my career. So at the moment, I'm running the team which you're involved with. I want to then move on to being the head of that and then potentially director level as well. I want to keep pushing myself. I want to keep growing within this company, and I feel that I can. I only came in as an operator, and I'm already at the level I'm at within a few short years. So yeah, I just want to keep pushing it, and I know that the opportunities are there. I've currently been put on a training program within Europa to help me grow. They are looking for new talent and looking to develop them skills within me. So yes, I definitely want to be progressing further within this industry because it's so exciting. I did actually, early on in my career, attempt to leave the industry. It took me 6 months to realise I don't like normal day-to-day. Come in, these are the tasks you do every single day. It wasn't for me. So I ended up coming back into the freight industry, and I have not thought of leaving ever since. So. Yeah.
For me, it's just getting as much experience as possible, just carrying on. Obviously, this new avenue now of the operations side of things, this is still new to me. It's going to be new to me for a while, and I just need to, keep on going with it. I've seen and changed a lot over the last 5 years. So for me, if I can progress and potentially go up at any point over the next few years, that'll be good enough for me. I just want to get as much experience as possible and be one of the people that are answering the questions rather than asking them. I love being the person that people come to answer the questions, and that's where I want to get to in this role now in particular, to be the one that knows what's going on, what to do with this, what's the best way of handling that. So if I can carry on doing that, that's good enough for me. But I'm happy here and want to carry on. So,
that's good.
Yeah. What does the future look like for transportation?
Ooh, now, yeah, that's an interesting question because we've got to start thinking about the environment, we've got to start thinking about using green fuels and things like this. It's a little bit more difficult for what we're doing because we're using third-party suppliers within our team, but we're looking to make sure that we're using the right partners to make sure that we're helping drive this forward, making sure that we're looking out for the environment and making sure that we're keeping CO2 levels down. And yeah, it's interesting, but it's also going to be challenging to make sure that we're doing that. I can't see it having any major bumps in the road as long as we're very sensible with it and make sure that we're exploring all avenues.
Yeah, I agree. There are so many different things that could happen. And over the last 5 years, some of the things we've talked about with COVID, Brexit, Ukraine war, any of those events could happen again, and it could be something completely new that we're talking about in the news that will probably massively affect our industry. So I think just being prepared for anything and just making sure that we're obviously moving along with technology's getting a lot better as well. So I'm sure that we'll see over the next few years massive strides in that kind of department, especially in what we do, and the vehicles that we're trying to move. So yeah.